Kris Boyd claims that Philip Clement's biggest problem is that he doesn't know his strongest starting 11. Welcome back to Fog Football. I feel like we've heard this about a million times before, but I'm actually going to disagree with Kris Boyd. How does Clement not know his strongest starting 11? He's been in the job a year. Alright, there's been new signings, in January and in the summer transfer window. But he clearly does know his strongest starting 11. Well, at least in his eyes, because he's got his favourites, folks. James Tavernier, absolutely first name on the team sheet. No one really knows why. I mean, people were greeting and crying for Tom Lawrence not to start games. Seemed to start them until he picked up his injury. I would argue he does know his strongest team. Clement's strongest team, and this is Clement's strongest team, right? Not what I would pick. Butland, Yefte, Suter, Proper, Tavernier, Diamonde, Barron, Bajrami, Lawrence, Tierney, Dessers. That is Clement's strong. That is the team he wants to pick. Hands down, no two ways about it. That is the team that Philip Clement wakes up in the morning, polishes his baldy dome with Mr. Sheen, and goes, aye, that's the team I want. Because that's what he picks. See, when we've had, no injuries and a clean bill of health, which, I say when we've had that, I don't think we've ever had that. Maybe you could make the argument that when Danilo is back firing, he might prefer Danilo over Dessers, but this article's more about the fact he doesn't know his strongest team, and that would suggest it's down to he tinkers with. I don't think Clement tinkers with the Rangers team an awful lot. I think he picks the same every time. Man, I do a start 11 reaction. You're like, oh my god, he's picked those two. Oh, he's picked that clump. He's picked that toss pot. So I don't really understand this element. He doesn't know his strongest team. Boyd thinks that though. And I'm going to disagree with Kris Boyd. Though I disagree with Kris Boyd in a lot of things, but I'll disagree with him here. Now, he was speaking on the warm-up, the William Hill SPFL weekly preview show, and he turned around and said, listen, it's hard for me to sit here and say, in terms of it's a project, I don't think Rangers Football Club should ever be a project. And again, I think this is just Kris Boyd completely repeating himself so far this season. Like, how many times have we heard Kris Boyd in the studio, on Sky, he doesn't really do Twitter, or in his column, repeating what he's just said here, the Rangers Football Club aren't a project. I get that. They shouldn't be a project. And I just don't understand, why does Boyd keep repeating it? I mean, I guess we keep repeating things, I guess that is the nature of football, but I feel like every time I read a Kris Boyd article, it's always something to do with Rangers Football Club shouldn't be a project. I totally agree, they shouldn't be, but the reality is, it looks that way. I mean, you look at it, the fact that they want to keep Clement and give him the keys to the kingdom tells you all you need to know, but then, keys to the kingdom, look above Clement, what's going on? We don't even know, we are literally missing, like, every position in the higher-ups. We don't even know who's bringing people in. It's chaotic, man. Honestly, it is chaotic. Boyd went on to say, and I quote, there was a lot of changes over the summer. This has been one of Rangers' problems for a number of years now. I don't think the recruitment policy, the players that have been brought in, have improved the 11 as such. We're now in October. I couldn't name Rangers' best 11 right now. I don't think Philip Clement can either. Hence the reason he's changing players every week. Right, end of quote. Again, as I touched on at the start of this video, I think Clement does know his starters 11, his strongest 11. He says he's changing players every week. I would say when Clement changes the 11, it's more to fight, fatigue and just, giving the team a new burst of energy. Like we saw Igamani start against Hibs. I don't think Igamani starting over Dessers is him not knowing his strongest 11. Obviously, Dessers is better than Igamani, right? Even though I'd like to see Igamani get more chances, right, and things like that, I think Clement does know strong, and I read at the start of this video, it's clearly Butland, Yefte, Suter, Proper, Tav, Barron, Diamonde, Bajrami, Lawrence, Tierney, Dessers. That, to me, that is what Clement picks as his strongest 11. Now, maybe with Yanis Hadji back in the fold, and obviously, I know he got red carded, but hopefully he can come back from that strong. And maybe if we don't pick up any more injuries, we'll begin to see what is the strongest 11. But for me, that's it. That is the 11 that started most games this season, barring injuries. So I honestly think that's almost like a cheap excuse. Like, how can Clement not know his strongest 11? We're into October. This is it. And we're not talking like, oh, he knows his strongest 10, but there's like a position where he changes it. I mean, maybe you could argue Casemiro deserves to start in at left back over Yefty, just his recent form over the last couple of games. But Jefty's been great the entire season, so not going to bury him too much. But for me, I don't know. I think it's a cheap excuse going down that route. He also went on to speak a wee bit about Nicholas Kuhn. So we'll move away from Rangers and on to Kuhn. He said about the German. He might have started a bit slowly last season, but there were still glimpses there where you thought, there might be a player there. It was all about putting it together. But I mean this season, I think he's been outstanding. End of quote. And I tell you what, he was pretty poor last season when he arrived for Rapid Vienna, but this season, 6 goals, 8 assists in his first 11 games in all competitions. Champions League, League, Cup, all that good stuff. I mean, 6 goals, 8 assists, 14 goals and assist contributions in your first 11 games. That's exactly what you want, man. If you're a Celtic man, then I think Nicholas Kuhn is absolutely worth the praise that he's getting here, troops. Anyway, Fog Football, hit that like button. Do you think Clement knows the strongest starting 11? I think he does. I think this is just smoke and mirrors talk for Boyd.